A series of controversies is threatening to derail the opening of Disney's latest big-budget blockbuster. I'm talking about the live-action remake of Snow White, which will be out next week.
It was supposed to be Disney's next big hit, a modern twist on a beloved classic, rebooted for a new generation with a diverse cast, updated values, and a fresh narrative. But instead of breaking box office records, Snow White became something else entirely. A lightning rod for controversy, online backlash, and studio panic. And at the very center of this chaos, two figures no one expected to be on opposite sides of a Hollywood meltdown. Rachel Zegler, the rising star meant to carry the new era of Disney royalty, and Peter Dinklage, the award-winning actor whose offhand remarks might have set the entire production on fire. What followed was a bizarre saga of last-minute script changes, fan outrage, test screenings gone wrong, and industry speculation.
There were reportedly not even going to be dwarfs either, rainbow people instead until there was a fan protest. And even the word dwarfs isn't mentioned in this remake. The film has people saying, don't mock sleepy as a neurological condition, and dopey isn't really dopey, that'd be rude.
Some say the film was doomed from the start. Others believe it was one interview, one quote that changed everything. But what if it wasn't just a quote? What if Zegler really did blame Dinklage, at least privately, for what happened? This is the story of the Snow White disaster. When Disney announced Rachel Zegler would play Snow White, it was immediately positioned as a progressive step forward. Zegler, a Colombian-American actress who gained fame for her performance in West Side Story, seemed like the perfect breakout face for a 21st century version of the first Disney princess. But what Disney didn't expect was just how divided the public would be. Fans flooded social media with mixed reactions. While many applauded the casting choice, others questioned the logic of modernizing a character so deeply rooted in European folklore.
Peter Dinklage questioned why the story even included the characters at all.
They're very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White.
Yeah.
But you're still telling the story of Snow White.
Yeah.
And Seven Dwarfs.
Sure.
So, look, take a step back and look at what you're doing.
Critics didn't hold back. Why is Snow White being played by someone who doesn't match the literal description from the original? To make things worse, Zegler herself didn't help the situation with her early comments. In interviews, she stated that her version of Snow White would be a leader and won't be saved by a prince, which, while empowering, felt like a slight against the classic tale for some. Suddenly, what was supposed to be a feel-good casting move became a lightning rod for arguments over race, authenticity, and the direction of Disney's live-action remakes. And that was before Peter Dinklage said a word. In a podcast interview, Dinklage was asked about Disney's remake. He didn't mince words. He called it backward, hypocritical, and questioned why a story about 7 dwarfs living in a cave was being retold in 2023. The quote exploded. Dinklage wasn't some internet commentator.
You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it, the disability, like we're a disability group, you just erased that whole image.
He's an Emmy-winning actor with one of the most recognizable voices in Hollywood. When he talks, people listen. And in this case, the message was clear. Disney was trying to be progressive, but in doing so, they were repeating old mistakes. The reaction was immediate and polarizing. Some praised him for standing up against harmful tropes. Others saw his comments as performative or even damaging to the dwarfism community. But regardless of the intent, the effect was undeniable. Dinklage's critique caused a massive ripple inside Disney. Just weeks after Dinklage's comments went viral, rumors began to swirl. Disney was rewriting the script. Insiders claimed the studio was rethinking the 7 dwarfs altogether. Instead of embracing or respectfully reimagining the characters, they were removing them completely, replacing them with vague magical creatures. Suddenly, the film was drifting away from its roots, and fans noticed. The classic fairy tale charm that made Snow White iconic was starting to dissolve, replaced by a Frankenstein script stitched together under pressure. The production was a mess. Creative disagreements flared. Some wanted to stick closer to the original story. Others pushed for radical updates. And in the middle of it all, Rachel Zegler. Zegler was supposed to be the face of this new era, but instead of leading a beloved revival, she was now standing at the front of a cultural minefield. She couldn't win. If she spoke out, she'd be accused of undermining the film. If she stayed silent, people assumed she agreed with every decision the studio made.
Now, fans are growing more concerned about Disney's new Snow White remake, mostly because of what the lead actress has been saying to the press. Rachel Zegler has been described as a walking PR disaster for Disney.
And then a rumor leaked. Zegler was allegedly furious behind the scenes. According to anonymous insiders, she felt the entire production had shifted under her feet, and that Dinklage's comments were the spark that set the whole thing ablaze. Did she really say that? No one knows. But people close to the situation claimed Zegler believed the dwarves' removal caused the story to lose its heart, its rhythm, and eventually the audience's interest. As the release date crept closer, reports from inside the studio painted a bleak picture. Multiple rewrites had led to a disjointed plot. Some scenes felt like they were from different movies entirely. The film's tone shifted dramatically from scene to scene, trying to be nostalgic and progressive all at once, and failing at both. Test screenings were disastrous. Viewers described the movie as confusing, preachy, and emotionally flat. The dwarfs, or what was left of them, were barely in the story. By this point, Disney had lost control of the narrative. Instead of controlling the story, they were reacting to headlines, chasing approval from all sides. After the backlash hit a fever pitch, new rumors began to swirl. Disney was quietly exploring a second Snow White adaptation. Yes, you read that right. A reboot of the reboot, and fans had someone in mind. Jenna Ortega.
There's more. There's always more. Let's have a listen.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story.
Fresh off the success of Wednesday, her name trended instantly. She had range, charisma, and a loyal fan base. People began to imagine a version of Snow White that wasn't mired in controversy. No official confirmation came, but the speculation was enough to steal headlines and cast an even longer shadow over Zegler's version. When the film finally hit theaters, it limped in under a mountain of bad press. Critics were brutal. Audiences were indifferent. And the whispers about Zegler blaming Dinklage still lingered. Some fans thought she had every right to be frustrated. After all, the story had changed dramatically, and she was left to defend a film she barely recognized. Others weren't so sympathetic. They argued that blaming Dinklage was convenient, and that the film's issues ran far deeper than a single actor's quote. At its core, this wasn't just about Snow White. It was about a studio trying to walk the tightrope between nostalgia and progress, about what happens when public discourse dictates creative choices, and about how one interview can derail years of planning. The alleged Zegler versus Dinklage rift became the symbol of a production that lost control, not just of its story, but of its identity. Snow White was supposed to be timeless. Instead, it became a cautionary tale, a reminder that when a story is iconic, every change matters, that when studios rush to modernize without a clear vision, the result is often confusion, backlash, and disappointment. Whether Rachel Zegler ever truly blamed Peter Dinklage might never be confirmed, but the idea that one comment, one actor, could set off a chain reaction that toppled an entire film feels strangely fitting in today's Hollywood. because this wasn't just another failed remake. This was a disaster that will haunt Disney for years.